For centuries, the Umbra sector remained the darkest point on every star map in the galaxy. It was a place no pilot ever bragged about visiting, a place no explorer dared to even look toward for too long. The sector seemed cursed, empty, silent, and yet filled with something cold that made even machines malfunction. Every species knew its reputation. The Umbra sector was a graveyard of forgotten stars, shattered planets, and anomalies that twisted light into shapes the mind refused to understand. Science had tried to explain it. Religion had tried to name it. Legends had tried to warn about it. But the truth was simple: no one entered and survived. The galaxy treated it like a sealed coffin floating in space, untouched, unapproached, unspoken, until the day something impossible happened. It began at first with a whisper, random numbers appearing on observatory screens across distant worlds. The readings looked like glitches, static noise, meaningless data. But then the numbers sharpened, aligning into a pattern that every scientist recognized immediately but wished they didn't. Space itself was bending. Something was tearing it open. A rift, a rip in the fabric of the void. Observatories on thousands of planets switched to emergency mode. Alarms howled. Lights flashed. Experts fainted at their consoles. And yet, no one could bring themselves to turn away from the incoming data. The tear grew wider and wider, like a wound in reality stretching open. It emitted a deep vibration, not sound exactly, but something felt inside bones, something that made living beings pause mid-breath. And then the shape appeared. At first it looked like a shadow, long, sharp-edged, and impossibly large. Then the shadow began to solidify. Its outline formed against the distortion waves, its hull absorbing all light around it. Everyone watching the screens froze in shock. Entire councils across star systems leaned closer as their monitors displayed the impossible clearly. A ship, a massive ship, materializing inside forbidden space. But not just any ship. A human ship. The galaxy forgot how to breathe. Humans had vanished centuries ago. Their colonies shut down. Their fleets disappeared. Their signals died. Some believed they ascended. Others believed they destroyed themselves. Some theorized they discovered a threat and fled beyond the galaxy. But no one expected this. The ship emerged completely from the tear, a titan born from the void. Its black hull was coated with layers of unknown metal, engraved with runes older than every modern civilization. Its engines did not glow, yet gravity around it twisted like waves on a stormy ocean. Every corner of its structure looked purposeful, deadly, silent. Then its name registered across old databases. Systems that had been locked, archived, or abandoned thousands of years ago suddenly flickered awake. Files decrypted themselves, ancient human encryption unraveling as if the ship itself gave permission. The name flickered across every screen. The Vigilant Star. A name so old and classified that even the oldest empires had only heard it whispered in rumors. A human prototype dreadnought that never launched. A myth, a story, a ghost from an era when humans fought enemies the galaxy had forgotten. And now it was here, alive, awakened, watching. As the Vigilant Star fully stabilized, gravitational distortions rippled outward in slow waves, spreading across star systems like silent storms. Tiny moons shook in their orbits. Gas giants vibrated. Stars flickered. Entire planetary atmospheres wavered for seconds. People ran from their homes. Leaders collapsed in panic. Pilots abandoned flight paths and powered down engines, terrified the ship might see them as a threat. Even pirate clans known for fearlessness drifted quietly, not daring to move. Because if this was human technology, what had humanity been fighting? Inside the Galactic Assembly Hall, dozens of species screamed in chaos. Ambassadors shouted for information. High councils demanded answers from their strategists. Military leaders slammed fists on tables, shouting for immediate preparation for war. But no one knew whom to prepare against. The Vigilant Star didn't move. It didn't speak. It didn't fire. It simply floated inside forbidden space like a giant watching the galaxy with ancient eyes. The silence was louder than any weapon. Across the galaxy, a single truth began to rise like smoke. Humans did not vanish. They went somewhere darker. And now one of their warships had returned. While panic spread, scientists zoomed into every inch of the colossal ship. What they saw only deepened the fear. The Vigilant Star's surface was not metal, it was something alive. The hull seemed to pulse faintly, like a heartbeat slowed across centuries. When light touched it, the hull bent the light around itself, creating a void of pure black, as if the ship refused to be seen. And yet, every sensor confirmed it. The Vigilant Star was awake. Across another region of space, the Karan Empire's war council quickly gathered. Their emperor, a massive horned warrior, slammed his claws against the table. "Humans return for war," he growled. "We must be ready to attack." But his chief scientist trembled as she spoke. "Your Majesty, the readings from that ship," she gulped, her voice cracking. "That ship carries energy levels equal to an exploding star." Silence spread through the chamber. Meanwhile, the Tethar coalition, known for diplomacy, sent emergency broadcasts across 3 galaxies. "Do not approach the ship. Do not enter forbidden space. Stay away at all costs." But it was the Zynar Dominion, keepers of ancient records, who said the words no one wanted to hear. "If a human ship awakens, it is not humanity that should terrify us. It is what they came to stop." On thousands of worlds, children cried. Soldiers gripped their rifles tightly. Old beings whispered prayers. And still, the Vigilant Star did nothing but wait. Then something strange happened. Every scanner in the galaxy flickered. Every screen went dark. Every communication device rebooted. When the screens came back, a single message appeared across every language, every system, every planet, one code used only by ancient humans and unread for centuries. A warning. "Do not enter the sector." For simple words. Yet the galaxy trembled. Species began to panic. "Are the humans speaking to us?" someone cried. "Are they warning us to stay away?" another asked. "Is something waking up inside forbidden space?" The questions multiplied faster than answers. The few who had studied humanity's forgotten era felt their stomachs twist. Humans were many things. Brave, curious, emotional, dangerous. But one thing they never did. They never warned their enemies. Humans only warned the universe when something worse was coming. Inside the Vigilant Star, no figure appeared. No movement could be detected. The ship behaved like an abandoned titan, suddenly remembering its duty after centuries of silence. Stillness spread again. The galaxy held its breath. But space around the ship continued to warp. Gravity rolled like storms. Dark energy pulsed from deeper inside the Umbra sector. Something was moving there. Something huge. Something old. Scientists watching from distant stations whispered, "The human ship is not invading. It is guarding." A terrifying realization hit the galaxy like ice. Humanity left something inside forbidden space, and the Vigilant Star had returned to stop it from breaking free. The galaxy had always feared the humans for their strength. But now, they feared them because of what they were afraid of. The Vigilant Star rotated slowly, positioning itself between the Umbra sector and the edge of the galaxy. It was a gesture so precise, so deliberate, that it made every empire freeze in terror. The silent message was clear. Whatever is inside forbidden space is worse than humans ever were. And as the ship's long shadow spread across broken stars, the galaxy finally understood the meaning of fear. Not of the Vigilant Star, not of humanity, but of the thing the warship had returned to face. Something old, something unkillable, something that forced humans to disappear just to imprison it. And now, the prison walls were shaking. Across the galaxy, panic spread like wildfire. Every species, every empire, every wandering ship felt the tremor that rippled outward from forbidden space. The Vigilant Star remained motionless, its hull absorbing light, its presence heavier than gravity itself. Yet the stillness was somehow worse than if it had attacked. It watched the galaxy like a silent judge returning to a courtroom abandoned for centuries. But deep inside observatories and command centers, something far more terrifying unfolded. readings that made scientists feel their hearts stop. Forbidden space was changing. At first, it was only a slight shift, a whisper in the energy fields. But then jagged spikes began stabbing through the charts, signatures not seen for thousands of years, frequencies that matched ancient human war logs, patterns that could only mean one thing. Something inside the Umbra sector was waking up. The Tethar coalition held an emergency broadcast seen by billions. Admiral Zirin stood at the center, her red armor gleaming under harsh lights, her face pale but determined. "We do not engage the vigilant star," she commanded. "We observe. We wait. We do not provoke." But even as she spoke, her voice trembled, not from fear of humans but from fear of what the vigilant star feared. Meanwhile, in the Karan Empire, the War Council argued. "Humans vanished because they were weak," one shouted. "If we attack now, we can claim the Umbra sector forever." But their emperor slammed the war table with such force it cracked. "Weak," he roared. "That ship destroyed gravitational fields around it simply by existing. One pulse from it could crush our entire armada." He looked toward the hologram of the dark warship hovering above forbidden space. "And if humans left this behind, it was not because they were weak. It was because something stronger hunted them." Those words echoed across the galaxy. In the quiet corners of space, old species who had lived through forgotten wars whispered among themselves. "Humanity vanished when the relic stars dimmed," one elder said. "Maybe they fought something none of us could see." Another whispered, "Maybe the vigilant star is not a weapon, but a guardian, a seal, a lock on a cage." Fear became universal. And still, the vigilant star did not move. Its silence began to feel like a heartbeat counting down to a moment no one wanted to reach. Then, without warning, every communication array in the galaxy flickered, cracked, and died. Darkness consumed screens. Panic surged. Ships drifted without guidance. Palaces went silent. Entire empires felt suddenly blind. Then a sound emerged. Not a voice, not static. A pulse. One single pulse, like a drum being struck in the void. Every starship, every station, every world heard it at the same time. A low, deep vibration that felt less like a sound and more like a memory pressing against the soul. Then every screen in the galaxy activated again, but not with any known signal. Instead, a face appeared. A human face. He wasn't alive. He wasn't speaking. He looked like a projection encoded centuries ago. A human officer with dark eyes, scars across his cheek, and a uniform lined with symbols no modern historian recognized. His gaze was steady, ancient, exhausted. He stared into every home, every command center, every emperor's hall. Then his voice spoke, not loud, but carrying infinite weight. "Do not enter the Umbra sector." The galaxy froze. The projection continued. "We left this place for a reason." His eyes shifted slightly, as if seeing something just out of view. Something behind him, something terrifying. "If the seal breaks," the hologram glitched. A wave of distortion spread across his image. His form flickered as if the memory itself was terrified. "None of you can stop it." Empires erupted in panic. Some military leaders screamed for retreat, others for evacuation. Civilians cried, gripping each other as the human projection faded in and out. But he wasn't finished. His voice returned, softer now, almost like a plea. "We are gone, but our machines remain. Trust them." Then the projection ended, and in the silence that followed, the vigilant star finally moved. Slowly, gracefully, as if yawning after centuries of sleep. But the motion was enough to send shockwaves through the galaxy. This massive hull rotated, aligning directly with the edge of forbidden space. Its engines glowed faint blue, energy so powerful that nearby stars dimmed in response. And then forbidden space screamed. A deep, rumbling cry erupted from the void. Not a sound, but a distortion that cut through reality like a blade. Entire planets shook. Oceans rose. Mountains split. Admiral Zirin gasped as her sensors lit up with impossible energy levels. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Something inside. It's pushing back." The Umbra sector pulsed again, harder. Space cracked like broken glass. Shadows twisted into shapes that defied physics. A wave of darkness rushed outward, slamming into the vigilant star. But the human warship held its position like a wall between the galaxy and oblivion. A second wave hit, then a third, each stronger than the last. Lightning made of pure void crackled through the rift. Something inside was trying to claw its way out. Then the vigilant star sent out its own signal. Not a warning, not a threat, a message. A single line broadcast across the galaxy. "Do not interfere." Those 3 words silenced every discussion, every panic, every order. For the first time in galactic history, every species obeyed a command that wasn't from their own leaders. Meanwhile, deep emotions stirred among those who understood what was truly happening. The Zynar elders, keepers of ancient lore, bowed their heads. "The humans did not flee this galaxy," one elder whispered. "They stayed behind to cage something. And now one of their guardians has awakened because the cage is cracking." Another elder trembled. "If humans return, it is not to conquer. It is to protect us from what hunted them." Inside the emperor halls of 3 great empires, brutal warriors stood in fear for the first time in generations. No one dared blink. No one dared speak. But in the farthest edges of the Milky Way, on a forgotten moon, a young historian who had spent her life studying human myths whispered something that no one had considered. "What if the vigilant star didn't wake up because the cage is breaking?" She swallowed hard, eyes wide. "What if it woke up because humans left one final soldier behind?" The galaxy trembled as her words spread like wildfire. If the vigilant star was not a machine but something more, something carrying human will, then it meant one terrifying truth. Humanity had never truly left. They had remained in silence, waiting for the moment the galaxy needed them most. And now that moment had come. The vigilant star's lights grew brighter, its engines charging, its cannons unfolding like wings made of light. It was preparing for something huge, something old, something humans once fought until they vanished. The galaxy held its breath again, because whatever was trapped in forbidden space was pushing harder. And the human ship was the only thing standing in its way. Forbidden space shook like a living creature trying to tear itself apart. Lightning made of pure void cracked through the sector, bending the stars around it. Every scanner in the galaxy screamed with warnings. The vigilant star absorbed each wave of distortion, but even the titanic human warship seemed to struggle against whatever was awakening inside the darkness. Across millions of worlds, people watched helplessly as their skies flickered with the echoes of the Umbra sector. Children cried in their mothers' arms. Warriors gripped ancient weapons with trembling claws. Even the oldest species, those who had seen empires rise and fall, felt something new inside their hearts. A fear so deep it felt like memory, as if something inside them recognized the pattern of the coming disaster. Inside the Galactic Assembly Hall, ambassadors shouted over one another, trying to make sense of impossible data. Holoscreens displayed the vigilant star's silhouette standing alone in front of a pulsing void. Admirals, generals, scientists, and rulers. All of them felt small, powerless, and painfully aware that the galaxy's fate was no longer in their hands. Admiral Zirin leaned forward, staring at the trembling star map. The Umbra sector wasn't expanding. It was breathing, expanding and contracting like a massive heart made of darkness. Every contraction sent out gravitational ripples strong enough to pull small moons off course. Every expansion released waves of cold energy that froze engines across distant fleets. "This is not a natural anomaly," Zirin whispered. "It is alive." A silence fell over her command room. Meanwhile, in the Karan Empire, their emperor stared at the screens with wide, terrified eyes. "That thing is pushing against reality. It wants to escape." And for the first time since his rise to power, he whispered what none of his generals ever expected to hear. "We cannot stop it. Only the humans ever could." But humanity was gone, or so the galaxy thought. Suddenly, the vigilant star's surface shimmered. The ship, dark as the void itself moments ago, now pulsed with white-blue lines that crawled across its hull, like veins awakening after centuries of sleep. The glowing lines converged toward the front of the warship, forming a circular pattern no living species could decipher. Across the galaxy, analysts studied the pattern desperately. What is it doing? Is it charging a weapon? Is it preparing to flee? Or to destroy the threat? But the truth was far beyond their guesses. The vigilant star wasn't preparing for war. It was preparing for communication. A deep hum resonated through space, vibrating through ships, planets, even living beings. The hum grew louder, denser, sharper, until it wasn't a sound anymore. It was a feeling, a pressure behind every mind, a weight on every soul. Then a voice emerged, a human voice, not the old hologram from before, not a pre-recorded message, not static or projection. A living voice, heavy, tired, emotional, echoed inside every mind in the galaxy. You were warned. The galaxy froze. Every being felt the voice resonate through them like a cold breeze. It wasn't aggressive, but it was filled with the weight of someone who had seen too much, lost too much, survived too much. The Karan Emperor fell back into his chair. That voice, it is alive, a real human. Admiral Zirin felt tears sting her eyes. It can't be, humans vanished thousands of years ago. The voice continued. The seal weakens. It must not break. The vigilant star rumbled as if reacting to the voice's emotion. Light rippled across its hull, forming ancient symbols that carried meaning beyond language. The voice grew quieter, more emotional. We fought them until we had nothing left, until our worlds burned, until our skies broke, until our children cried in the arms of dying suns. Images flickered across the galaxy. Hundreds of worlds burning, human fleets shattered, giant black silhouettes devouring stars. These visions weren't memories. They were warnings. The voice continued. We sealed them here to protect the galaxy, not ourselves. Because we knew. A pause. Painful pause. The galaxy leaned forward. We would not survive their return. The entire assembly hall gasped. Civilians across the galaxy cried out. Some dropped to their knees. Humanity didn't disappear out of weakness. They disappeared to save everyone else. The vigilant star's energy lines brightened. The hum grew deeper. Then the voice spoke again. Soft, emotional, breaking under the weight of centuries. I remained behind, a single soldier in a dead sector to hold the line. Shock, pure shock. A human was still inside the vigilant star. Alive, alone, guarding the prison of a cosmic monster for thousands of years. The galaxy trembled. In the Zynar Dominion, ancient monks whispered, one human soldier guarding the end of the universe. This is not a warship. It is a tombstone. The voice returned, now quieter, almost a whisper in the soul. They are waking. I feel them. I feel the cracks. The galaxy must stay away. If the seal breaks, the vigilant star suddenly shook violently. Forbidden space exploded with black lightning. The heart inside the sector pounded harder. Dark tendrils of energy lashed outward, tearing holes in space. Planets shook. Stars dimmed. The human voice groaned in pain. Not yet. Not yet, hold. It wasn't talking to the galaxy. It was talking to the monster inside the Umbra sector. Alarms screamed across observatories. Zirin's scanners overloaded. The Karan Emperor ordered full evacuation of nearby sectors. Civilians scattered, terrified. The void creature clawed harder at the prison walls. The vigilant star pushed back, its hull glowing like a dying star. The human soldier's voice strained. Stay back. Do not interfere. If you enter, the seal will fail. But then, the voice cracked. For the first time, the soldier sounded afraid. I cannot hold forever. The galaxy felt a collective shiver. One human, one warship, one dying guardian, holding back an enemy older than galaxies. Forbidden space pulsed again. A massive shadow formed behind the rift, bigger than any planet, its shape shifting like living darkness. The human soldier groaned. forcing the vigilant star's energy core to flare. Stay away, stay alive. Do not let our sacrifice be forgotten. Silence. The voice faded like a dying heartbeat. The vigilant star dimmed, sinking slowly back into its defensive position. And the galaxy realized the terrifying truth. This was not a warning. This was a countdown. Something inside forbidden space was breaking through, and humanity's last guardian was fading. The galaxy held its breath as the vigilant star dimmed, its once brilliant energy lines flickering like a dying heartbeat. The human soldier's voice, ancient, exhausted, fading, still echoed across the minds of trillions. Entire star systems remained silent, listening for one more word, one more signal, one more breath from the last guardian of humanity. But nothing came. Forbidden space trembled again. Not in the chaotic way it had before, but in a slow, deliberate rhythm. A rhythm that felt like breathing. It was the moment every ancient legend had feared. Inside the galactic assembly, the atmosphere shifted from panic to despair. Leaders stared at the shaking hologram of the Umbra sector, watching the expanding void push against the edges of reality. The darkness within it no longer behaved like an anomaly. It moved like a creature waking from centuries of forced sleep. Admiral Zirin gripped the edge of her command chair so tightly her claws cracked the metal. The human guardian, he's losing strength. Her voice quivered despite her efforts to stay composed. If he falls, the seal will break. Her second-in-command whispered, Admiral, we are watching the end of an era. But Zirin shook her head slowly, tears building in her eyes. No, we are watching the end of everything. Across the galaxy, civilian screens lit up with the same terrifying view. The vigilant star drifting slightly off position, its hull shaking under forces no living species could comprehend. Sparks of ancient human tech sputtered across its wings. Sections of its armor peeled away into the void. But even in its damaged state, the warship fought to stay in place, like a warrior held upright by sheer will. In the Karan Empire, the emperor stood alone near a window overlooking the stars. His generals feared entering the chamber, afraid to show weakness before a ruler who had built his empire on dominance. But now, the emperor's massive shoulders slumped, his breath shaky. He whispered, one human, guarding a monster that could devour galaxies. For the first time in his brutal life, he felt small. Meanwhile, in the Zynar Dominion, old monks gathered in prayer for the first time in 10,000 years. They bowed toward the projection of the vigilant star, chanting in shaky voices. Honor to the last guardian. Honor to the fallen humans. Honor to the ones who bled so we could live. Across the galaxy, people wept, not out of fear now, but out of grief. Grief for a species they once believed arrogant, dangerous, unpredictable. Grief for the truth they had witnessed. Humanity didn't vanish. They sacrificed themselves so others could survive. And now their last soldier was dying alone. Back inside forbidden space, the vigilant star's engines flickered violently. The ship trembled like a wounded animal trying to stay upright. The void monster behind the rift pushed harder, its massive shadow expanding until it filled every sensor screen. Black lightning cracked across the sector, revealing fragments of its form. A twisting body made of gravity and darkness, countless eyes opening and closing, jaws of void energy snapping at the weakening seal. A roar, not sound, not vibration, but pure psychic force, ripped through the galaxy. Billions collapsed to their knees. Stars dimmed. Atmospheres rippled. The fabric of space felt like paper being torn by invisible claws. The creature wanted out, and the only thing keeping it contained was one ship and one dying human. Inside the vigilant star, deep within its core, the last human soldier leaned against a glowing pillar of energy, the ship's heart. His body was fragile, worn, and thin, held alive by the ship's ancient systems. His hands shook violently as he tried to stabilize a panel flooding with red warnings. He whispered through cracked lips, "Hold together. Just a little longer. Just a little more." His voice carried pain, centuries of it. He had no audience, no allies, No humanity left to comfort him. But still he fought. The ship groaned as the void creature struck again. Metal screamed. Lights died. Hull plates shattered. The soldier fell to one knee, coughing blood onto the metal floor. His vision blurred. His heart felt weak. Yet he forced himself back up, grabbing the control handles with trembling fingers. A whisper escaped him. A whisper that reached no one, yet soaked through the walls like prayer. Humanity, I hope I was enough. Outside, the galaxy watched the warship falter. Admiral Zirin wiped her tears. We have to help him, even if we die trying. Her crew muttered panicked protests. The warning. He said not to enter the sector. It would break the seal. We can't risk waking the creature. Zirin slammed her fist on the console, her voice cracking. He has fought alone for thousands of years. She pointed at the shaking hologram. If humanity were still here, they would not abandon him. But the truth was harsh. Any ship that entered forbidden space would pull energy, disrupt the fragile barrier, and help break the seal the human had maintained for centuries. Helping him would kill him faster. Across the galaxy, species began to understand the terrible reality. The human guardian didn't need reinforcements. He needed time. And time was the one thing the galaxy could not give. Another violent tremor shook the vigilant star. The soldier inside gasped as a jolt of electricity hit his chest. He fell again, struggling to breathe. The ship itself seemed to mourn, its lights dimming like flickering candles. He pressed a trembling hand to the control pillar. Not yet, please. The ship responded weakly, humming like a heartbeat fading into silence. Another strike from the void creature slammed into the barrier. The vigilant star spun backward, its hull cracking open, exposing screaming energy vents. The human soldier felt the force of the blow like a punch to his soul. His knees buckled. Blood poured from his nose. He leaned against the pillar, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Yet he still whispered, I will not fail. I will not let them die. From across the galaxy, billions watched him silently. Though they could not see him, they felt him. Felt his struggle, his pain, his courage. And for the first time in recorded history, the galaxy prayed for a human. Outside the ship, the rift swelled with a monstrous surge. The void creature finally pushed far enough for a glimpse of its true form. A massive, swirling silhouette of darkness that stretched across a star system, its tendrils clawing at reality, ripping space like cloth. The galaxy screamed. Every species felt its mind go cold. And then the creature roared directly at the vigilant star. The shockwave sent the ship spinning, its engines failing, its weapons shutting down. The soldier inside was thrown across the core chamber, slamming against the wall. He coughed as his ribs cracked, his vision turning white. He could no longer stand. He could barely breathe. And yet he reached out. His hand trembling, he grabbed the core stabilizer one last time. His voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of humanity itself. Not while I live. The core surged. A burst of ancient human energy exploded through the warship. The vigilant star stopped spinning, stopped falling, stopped breaking. For a moment it stood firm again. The galaxy gasped. The void creature recoiled. The human soldier, bleeding and barely alive, forced himself to sit upright, leaning against the core with the last strength in his bones. He whispered with a trembling smile, still here. And for the first time in recorded history, the monster hesitated. In that hesitation, hope survived. The vigilant star floated like a dying titan in the heart of forbidden space, its once brilliant energy veins dimming, flickering, struggling to remain lit. Every piece of its ancient armor groaned under the pressure of the void creature clawing against the weakening seal. The warship was cracked, bleeding sparks, shedding fragments of human legacy into the vast emptiness around it. Yet it still held its position, still guarded, still fought. Inside the ship, the last human soldier lay against the glowing core, his breath shallow and broken. His vision blurred again and again as waves of pain crashed through him. He could feel the ship failing, not just metal, not just systems, but its very will. The vigilant star was alive in its own way, connected to him through neural links older than any empire in the galaxy. When he hurt, it hurt. When he weakened, it weakened. Yet both refused to break. A deep tremor shook the sector as the monster behind the rift struck the barrier once more. The impact sent ripples across space, cutting into reality like a blade slicing through thin fabric. Stars outside the sector flickered violently, some dimming, some going out completely. The monster did not roar this time. Instead, it released a slow, guttural vibration that spread across the galaxy like a cold shiver, a warning of its inevitable arrival. Despite his shattered ribs, the human soldier forced a breath and whispered, "Still, not enough. Not today." His voice trembled with pain and stubbornness, a combination that defined humanity itself. He tried to stand, his hands slipping on the metal floor, his legs refusing to obey. Every muscle burned, every bone throbbed, but he pushed again, clawing at the support rail until he managed to drag himself upright, even if only barely. Outside, across the galaxy, billions watched the vigilant star tremble. Through telescopes, scanners, and broadcasts, they saw the giant warship tilt slightly, its silhouette twitching, almost collapsing. Fear spread like wildfire. In the Karan Empire, warriors gathered in the Emperor's war hall, watching the giant screens with fear in their eyes. One whispered, "The Guardian is losing." Another gripped her claws together, shaking. "He cannot hold forever." The Emperor closed his eyes, his voice breaking. "He has held longer than any of us deserve." In the Tethar coalition, Admiral Zirin stood alone on the bridge of her flagship, staring at the trembling hologram of the human warship. "Please," she whispered, "please don't die." Her voice broke. She had never met a human. She never would. And yet she felt as if she owed everything to this one soldier, this one guardian holding back a nightmare she could not even imagine. Meanwhile, deep inside forbidden temples of the Zynar Dominion, ancient monks whispered old prophecies. When the last human stands at the end of the void, the universe is at its final hour. The vigilant star pulsed again, the energy in its core flickering weakly. The warship began sinking backward, unable to withstand the monster's growing strength. Inside, the soldier collapsed onto his knees again, blood dripping onto the glowing floor. He pressed his palm against the core, whispering words only the ship could hear. "Not yet. Don't give in. Don't stop. Humanity didn't fall. We chose to protect. We chose this path." The core flickered in response, trying desperately to reignite its systems. Sparks danced around the soldier's fingers, but they faded quickly. The ship was too damaged, too exhausted, too old. Then the void creature pushed again. This time the barrier cracked. Reality itself split open like a wound. Tendrils of darkness reached out, clawing at the edges of existence. Stars outside the sector twisted in unnatural shapes. Time stuttered, bending like metal under heat. A single pulse from the creature sent shockwaves so powerful that nearby systems temporarily lost their suns. The galaxy felt the pressure. Air thinning, hearts trembling, minds freezing. The soldier gasped as the force slammed into him through the ship's neural link. His spine arched as pain sparked through every nerve. His vision washed white. For a moment, he felt like he was drowning in memories. Memories of a world long dead. He saw Earth, blue oceans, white clouds, golden sunsets, laughter of children long gone. His mother's face, his commander's voice, his brothers and sisters in arms. He saw their sacrifice. He saw their flames. He saw their final battle against the relic monsters that refused to die. He saw the moment they sealed the darkness inside the Umbra sector, and the moment they chose him to stay behind. Chosen not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to break. Tears fell down his cheeks as he whispered, "I promised them. I promised I'd hold the line." His hand pressed harder against the core. But the monster struck the barrier again. This time the crack widened. A massive dark tendril, thicker than a planet, pushed through the breach, reaching into real space. Its presence alone erased asteroids, vaporized dust clouds, and bent the path of starlight. Sensors across the galaxy screamed as readings soared into impossible ranges. The galaxy panicked. This is the end. The seal is broken. We will all die. No one can stop it now. But the vigilant star moved. Slowly, painfully, defiantly. Its engines flickered. Its hull cracked. Its wings tore. But still, it moved forward. The soldier inside coughed blood again, his body shaking violently. His heartbeat felt too slow, too weak, fading like an echo in a hollow chamber. He knew he was dying. He knew he had minutes, maybe seconds, and yet he smiled. A broken, bloody, exhausted smile. We're not done yet. The monster pushed harder, forcing its massive tendril into the real universe. Planets vibrated in their orbits. The galaxy screamed in unison. The soldier dragged his hand across the core, activating a sequence no one alive had ever seen. The ship responded, lights flickering, panels shifting, ancient human tech awakening from centuries of silence. The warship roared. Its engines surged with primal force. Energy beams exploded across its hull. The vigilant star glowed like a star being born. Inside, the soldier spoke his last command. A whisper filled with human stubbornness, human pain, human courage. I am the seal. The core ignited. A blinding shockwave exploded outward, slamming into the void creature. The tendril recoiled, shrieking silently across the minds of billions. The crack in the barrier glowed white-hot, struggling to close as the vigilant star forced itself into position, directly inside the rupture. The soldier's hands dropped to his sides. He slumped against the core. His chest barely rose. His final whisper trembled across the neural link. For humanity, for the galaxy, for the ones who will never know my name. The warship flared again, brighter, hotter, stronger. It used its entire soul to push the monster back. Outside, the galaxy watched a miracle. One ship, one soldier, one last stand, facing a nightmare older than stars. And the vigilant star was still standing. Forbidden space burned with light and darkness colliding in a cosmic storm. The vigilant star pressed itself into the crack in reality, using every piece of ancient human technology, every fragment of its soul, and every ounce of strength left in its dying core. The void creature shrieked through dimensions as the ship forced its body between the galaxy and annihilation. The human soldier inside lay collapsed against the glowing core, his vision dimming. His heartbeat was weak, quiet, barely present. His armor was shattered. The neural cables connected to his spine flickered with dying energy. He was barely breathing now, his body running on pure will, a will stronger than fear, time, or death. Outside, the warship's wings split open, releasing fragments of old human tech that floated into the darkness like glowing shards. They weren't weapons. They were anchors, pieces of a sealing mechanism humanity had built long ago and never expected to use again. As the anchors activated, threads of white-blue energy stretched between them, forming a web across the crack in reality. The monster roared again, slamming its massive tendril against the forming barrier, trying to break through before the seal could close. Planets across nearby systems shook. Some cracked. Water surged from oceans. Moons fell out of orbit. Space itself rippled like water disturbed by a stone. Meanwhile, the soldier's voice, weak, broken, echoed through the ship's neural core. Hold, star, hold with me. The ship responded, lights flickering, engines screaming, metal bending but refusing to snap. On distant worlds, beings gathered around screens. Billions of hearts pounded together. They watched the vigilant star being crushed, bent, twisted, yet still pushing back. Children clung to their parents. Warriors gripped their weapons and bowed their heads. Leaders who once laughed at humanity now whispered prayers for a species they thought extinct. And then the galaxy heard something it was never meant to hear. The void creature's true voice. A massive, ancient howl ripped through the Umber sector. A sound that was not sound, but a psychic roar strong enough to make thousands faint instantly. Stars nearby dimmed. Nebulae scattered. Even black holes trembled. The monster used both tendrils now, ripping at the crack with unimaginable force, determined to escape the prison humanity had forced it into ages ago. The vigilant star shook like a dying star, pieces of its hull snapping off into the void. Flames burst across its wings as energy conduits failed. The ship's core flickered as if breathing its final breath. Inside, the soldier forced his trembling hand back onto the core. His eyes barely opened, only slivers of blue visible through heavy lids. He whispered, "Not yet." His breath rattled. His voice cracked, but the ship heard him, and the ship responded. The anchors glowed brighter. The sealing web tightened. The monster's tendrils recoiled slightly, hissing in fury. Forbidden space pulsed, reality bending from the sheer pressure. But the soldier knew, without one last push, the seal wouldn't hold. He gathered the last pieces of his strength, every memory he had left, every emotion inside him. He remembered Earth, the sunsets he would never see again. He remembered the faces of people who no longer existed. He remembered his commander telling him, "One day you may stand alone. If that day comes, stand tall." He whispered with a trembling smile, "I stood, sir. I stood." Then he reached into the core, literally placing his hand inside the glowing energy, fusing his life force with the ship itself. The vigilant star roared. A beam of pure, ancient human energy erupted from the warship, slamming into the crack and blinding the entire galaxy. The void creature shrieked. Its form convulsed. Its tendrils snapped back violently as the sealing web burned hotter than a newborn star. The soldier convulsed as the energy drained him completely. Every heartbeat was agony, but he didn't stop. He refused to stop. "I am the seal," he croaked. The barrier closed another inch. The monster screamed again. The galaxy watched in awe and horror as the single human warship, broken, dying, pressed with a force older than the stars themselves. The soldier collapsed fully against the core. His heartbeat slowed. His lungs trembled. His body began to fade, literally dissolve into the ship's energy as it used him as the final piece of the lock. Yet he smiled. A weak, fading smile. "We did it," he whispered. He saw light, bright, warm, familiar, like the sun of a home long lost. His fingers slipped from the core, and he whispered two final words. "For humanity." Outside, the vigilant star unleashed its final burst. A wave of white-blue light exploded outward from the ship, slamming into the crack with the force of a collapsing galaxy. The web tightened. The anchors ignited. The monster howled in terror and rage. Then, the crack sealed. Completely. The void creature's scream vanished instantly, swallowed by the restored barrier. Forbidden space fell quiet. The distortions vanished. Stars steadied. Space calmed. And the vigilant star stopped moving. Its lights faded. Its engines died. Its wings folded inward. It drifted silently in zero gravity, a tomb for the last human. Across the galaxy, silence spread. Then sorrow. Not fear. Not panic. Sorrow. Admiral Zirin fell to her knees, tears streaming. Warriors of the Karan Empire bowed their heads. Zynar monks lit lanterns for a soul they never met. Civilians on 1,000 worlds whispered, "Thank you, whoever you were." The galaxy realized a truth that would be remembered for millennia. Humanity didn't vanish. Humanity saved the galaxy. Again. And their last soldier died without anyone knowing his name. The vigilant star drifted quietly, glowing faintly like a candle in endless darkness. Then, a final message flashed across every screen in the galaxy, carried by the ship's dying core. "Seal repaired. Humanity fell so others may rise. Do not forget US." And for the first time in the history of the galaxy, every species bowed their heads in honor of the humans, the guardians they never thanked, the heroes they never understood, the protectors they lost too soon. The vigilant star remained, a monument to sacrifice, and the galaxy held its breath no more. It wept,